What's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Issued Equipment. And in this episode, we're going to be going over the ACH helmet and a couple of mods that you can make to this helmet to make it a little bit more functional for you when it comes to setting up this helmet for training and for use in real-world operations. I know a lot of units that require the use of this and they don't waver when it comes to being able to go out and purchase an Ops Core or a Team Wendy or a Cry Precision helmet that offers the same ballistic protection. They still require the use of this helmet and they don't waver when it comes down to it. So I do want to talk on a couple of things that you can do to set up this helmet so that way it's just more comfortable and more functional. In conjunction with that, I'm going to talk a little bit on the helmet covers. If you're required to wear a helmet cover and you're not allowed to be able to paint your helmet, there's a couple of things that you can do with this helmet cover to give it a little bit more purpose, aside from just being able to route cabling for certain night vision devices through it and then protect the helmet itself. So I'm going to start with the helmet cover and then move on to the actual helmet itself. So when it comes to the helmet cover, things that I like to do is I like to add a little bit of Velcro throughout the helmet cover, so that way it gives this helmet cover a little bit more purpose when it comes down to it. So with the front of this, you can put 1 inch by 2 inch or 1.5 inch by 2.5 inch sections of Velcro on the front of this to hold little 1x1 loom tape or IR tape squares for identification purposes. Or you can set this up to where if you want to run a headlamp and you want to put Velcro on the back of a headlamp and then just be able to Velcro this right into place, you can do that if you don't want to utilize the headlamp band that it comes with. So some options when it comes down to setting this up: if you're going to do the headlamp portion, I would just make this a little bit bigger than 1.5 by 2.5 inches or 1 by 2. So just take that into consideration if you're going to run headlamps on that. And then when it comes to the sides, what I like to do is I like to add Velcro. They kind of messed it up when I had them put this together, but you can put a flag size piece of Velcro on the side, or you can do a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square. And I like using this left hand side for unit patches. That way, depending on the unit and organization that you're in, it'll accommodate pretty much every single patch that's out there, and you'll be able to utilize that to identify the unit that you're in. When it comes down to it, I know a lot of units out there in the military will have guys sew the pouches or the patches onto the helmet cover, but a easier way of doing that is just sew Velcro onto the helmet cover, and then that way when you go from unit to unit, you can just swap your patches that you utilize for your uniform onto your helmet as well. So it just makes it a little bit easier when it comes down to it. The 3.5 by 3.5 inch square will accommodate almost every unit patch that's out there, with the exception of some of the CAV units that are out there that have a really big pouch. So with that said, you can fit a lot of stuff like the 173rd, the 82nd, all your mechanized infantry units. All those patches for the most part will fit on this side, even including the second ID patch that's out there. So you'll have a little bit of hang off, but it really isn't that bad in the grand scheme. So on the back side, before I get to the back side, I'll talk about the right hand side. So one thing that I like to do with the right hand side is I like to set this up if you want to have identifying markers, or if you want to have blood type or smaller unit and organization kind of logos or patches that you want to create and have for your element. You can throw that on this side, so that way it can help with identification purposes a little bit more. And then like the other side, it's just a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square to be able to put all of that on this side. So you do have that capability when it comes to setting up this helmet and having Velcro on both sides of the helmet for unit and organizational purposes. And then on the back side, you have this piece of Velcro to be able to take strobes, put some Velcro on them, and then be able to Velcro that strobe right into place. It just helps with the retention of equipment if you're going to run that on your helmet. So take that into consideration when it comes to setting up your helmet cover. If you're required to utilize this Army issued helmet cover, do take into consideration that you can set that helmet cover up to be able to be a little bit more functional for your helmet in the grand scheme. So when it comes to the helmet, though, I'm going to go over a couple of things when it comes to setting up helmet bands and night vision and all of that. So first and foremost, before I get into all that, if you want to run a helmet light like a headlamp and be able to have that headlamp for administrative purposes, one thing you can do, and this is what I recommend, is take your headlamp, wrap it all the way around, utilize those goggle loops that you can get for this helmet, and throw these on there as well. But like you'll see in a little bit in the video, or a little bit further in the video, how I have everything tied down. You can tie this headlamp to the actual helmet as well, so that way it helps keep things retained. But if you're going to run a headlamp, one thing that I would highly recommend that you do is make sure that your headlamp band sits behind your night vision mount like so, so that way this helmet or headband for your headlamp doesn't start to want to creep back up and over the helmet, and then just kind of get all contorted and all that. So take that into consideration if you're wanting to run a headlamp on your helmet. It does help keep things nice and organized and nice and streamlined. You can take 550 cord and tie it off like I have with your helmet cover or helmet band. Most of the time I see guys using the helmet bands for identification purposes, and they tie these down, or should tie them down to their helmet chin strap, just so that way it helps keep everything nice and tight and nice and organized. But you can do the same with your headlamp band. And then on the back side with these goggle loops, you can run your headlamp band through that as well, like I have here, where you go up and over and then back around and then back down into clip into the snap link that's on there. It just helps keep everything lower on the helmet, and so that way you don't have everything way up high, and you don't have this helmet band wanting to start to creep up on the back side of this helmet. So this just helps keep everything nice and organized when it comes down to it. If you want to run a headlamp on your helmet, but it is entirely up to you. In addition to that, when it comes to having these patches on the sides, the patches help retain that helmet or that headlamp band or helmet band, so that way it doesn't want to creep up as well. So you can kind of see here. But when it comes to these helmet bands, like I said, I highly recommend that you tie them off. It just keeps things nice and low on the helmet, so you don't have to worry about this coming off at any point. And then same with the backside. Use those goggle clips or loops to be able to hold this in place as well. And like I said, when it comes down to it, it's just going under and then over and then back under and then back over, and then clips right back into place. So pretty simple setup, but it just helps keep that band low on the helmet rather than creeping up. Like I was saying with the Velcro, whether you have a helmet cover or not, it's nice to have Velcro on the sides for patches, for identification purposes. I just have an old 173rd patch that I throw right there for classroom purposes. But like I said, with that 3.5 by 3.5 inch square, you're going to have a lot more coverage, so that way it can hold a lot larger patches in the event that you need that. So you have that capability. And then on the back side, Velcro 4 strobes again to help hold things in place, and then you just use your helmet band to help retain that as well. You can tie down if you want, but it's not necessary. It's just an option. And then that way, if you're running additionally any type of night vision battery pack, or you want to run a counterweight to help offset the weight of the nods, so that way your helmet isn't always falling forward, you can throw that on the back side of this, and it will help keep things balanced. So, and like I said, with that Velcro, again, you have a little bit of Velcro on this side, so that way you have the ability to run either blood type or identification placards or patches on the sides, so that way it's easy to identify who's who. So when it comes to the interior of the helmet, there's going to be two big things that I would highly recommend that you do to make this helmet as comfortable as possible. The first being the Oregon Aero helmet pads. These things are incredibly comfortable. I know there's a few people out there that know this company, and they know how these pads are and how comfortable they are, but it seems kind of like a lost secret. A lot of people I ask about this helmet and like, hey, do you know about Oregon Aero? And they have no idea who I'm talking about. Dude, these pads make this helmet incredibly comfortable. They put to shame the issued ones you get, and they put to shame some of the ones that you can get at the PX. These things are beyond comfortable, and when I first put these in this helmet and I tried them out, dude, it was an incredible experience, because I was like, wow, that made a huge difference on the comfort of the helmet. And they don't freeze up like some of the issued ones do and some of the gel ones that are out there. I mean, these things, it doesn't really matter what the environment is. They do a really good job, and they're pretty much always going to be comfortable when you're putting this helmet on and they form fit to your head. Think of it kind of like having a tempur-pedic bed on your head or for your head. So that's kind of one way of looking at it. Dude, they're awesome. I love them, and I've never had an issue wearing this helmet with these pads. So take that into consideration when looking at different pads that you can replace within this helmet system. There are a lot of other ones out there, but for an inexpensive set of pads, this is, I think, the go-to that anybody can get. In conjunction with that, I would highly recommend that you get the improved Nape chin strap. Whether you get the Ops Core version or not, I would highly recommend getting this just because it does make utilizing the chin strap a lot more comfortable. Whether you wear this actually on your chin or underneath your chin, it does make a big difference, and I think that this chin strap does do a very good job. It doesn't itch like the other chin straps that come with this helmet, and the retention points or the screw points where everything screw in are a lot better. I haven't had any issues with the chin strap getting loose and then falling off like the issued chin strap does. So take that into consideration. These are just a few things that you can do to improve the overall use of this helmet, so that way it's enabling you on the battlefield rather than inhibiting you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, send us an email. And we'll see you next time.